I have horrifying dreams. I'm so afraid. I am afraid to answer the phone. I need help. Please help. I am being terrorized. What could anyone possibly want from me? Internet, help me. I live every moment in horror. Help. No one believes me. I'm very scared. The fear has only gotten worse. The doorbell rang and I screamed. Help. I don't know what to do.
Hello, and welcome to Nightmare Masterclass. My name is David Stockdale. I'll be your host on this excursion into the dark unknown. What you have just experienced is a dramatic reading of select tweets from an account called @VeryScared, better known as Harvey on Twitter. The account was created in December of 2013, but it's only fairly recently that he's gotten on my radar. And if his Twitter account is any indication, Harvey is extremely online. On average, he tweets about 11 to 12 times a day. In total, Harvey has tweeted over 40,000 times in the past 5 or so years. Now, aside from the numerous expressions of terror, occasionally Harvey seems to give some information related to his background.
I do not have a wife or any children. In 1995, forest ranger named James hiked off trail at night, was never seen again. I have been a forest ranger for 26 years. My friend Rodney is a police officer. I do not think he will help me. My only friend is named Rodney. He does not believe me.
There's also a website displayed in Harvey's Twitter profile. I've taken a look at this website and, well, there doesn't appear to be anything particularly noteworthy here. It's just a picture of some wooded area and a hyperlink. I messed with the contrast on this image and there doesn't appear to be a hidden message or anything like that. I also did a reverse image search for this picture and no direct matches came up. Now, if you click on this hyperlink, you'll be sent to this page. So, yeah, it's very on brand for Harvey. One might suspect, based on the nature of these tweets, that Harvey, the character, is quite possibly a paranoid schizophrenic. Someone who labors under the illusion that they're being pursued by evil beings, whether it's spirits, lizard people, CIA operatives, etc., etc. And if we were just looking at this purely in terms of the content of the tweets, that would be a valid theory. But the repetitive nature of Harvey's comments, as well as the general tone, does deserve a bit of scrutiny. It would not be out of the question to suspect that Harvey is a bot, an automated program that occasionally regurgitates some predetermined expression of terror. Perhaps there's a formula to the madness. After all, Harvey's profile description currently contains one word.
Bot.
So, yeah, Harvey's definitely a bot. In fact, see this tweet? Harvey's tweeted this exact same thing countless times. So, case closed, right? Well, I mean, yeah. This isn't some never-ending rabbit hole that leads to some alternate reality game or anything like that. Perhaps Harvey is some programmer's idea of a joke. If that's the case, it's certainly a dark joke, and I would go so far as to say it's a joke that says something about the world around us. I, for one, think Harvey is an artful sort of commentary on the nature of social media. Harvey's continual expressions of pure horror are, in my view, capturing something in the zeitgeist. The fact that Harvey's icon is just an egg, the default profile image on Twitter, seems indicative of something deeper than a simple lack of an individual profile pic. After all, the profile's creator could have almost just as easily put pretty much anything there. Now, it seems more likely to me that the egg is representative of Twitter itself, and Harvey's repetitive cries for help are, in actuality, a recognition of some dark truth about the way we use social media. In some way, Harvey reminds me of a Twitter account called Infinite Scream, better known as Endless Screaming. Endless Screaming is, of course, a play on Norwegian expressionist Edvard Munch's painting, often referred to as The Scream. As with Harvey, you might well write off Endless Screaming as a reoccurring joke, a bot, or some kind of weird novelty account. But I would say that those who do are really underestimating the philosophical basis of the content. Namely, we need to be asking why the screaming persists, still, to this day. Endless Screaming is run by a bot maker by the name of Nora Reed. In July, Reed pinned a tweet to the profile that gives something of an ideological explanation for her profile. This bot might generally just post the screams, but here is an incomplete list of the things it is screaming about. Capitalism, which is shit garbage, white supremacy, fascism, the police, who are all bastards, ableism, transphobia, this website being full of Nazis. Reed's complaint about Twitter is indeed very common among the left. Twitter is often the subject of complaint for the more politically conscious among us. Why is this? Well, there are myriad reasons. Foremost among them seems to be contention over how the company enforces their terms of service on the platform. Or should I say, how they often fail to do so in certain circumstances. Namely, the chief complaint is that Twitter doesn't do enough to stop far-right trolls from harassing people. Jack Dorsey, Twitter's CEO, has a rebuttal for these types of critics. In a statement to the United States House Committee on Energy and Commerce, Dorsey said, "Let me be clear about one important and foundational fact. Twitter does not use political ideology to make any decisions, whether related to ranking content on our service or how we enforce our rules. We believe strongly in being impartial, and we strive to enforce our rules impartially. We do not shadow ban anyone based on political ideology. In fact, from a simple business perspective, and to serve the public conversation, Twitter is incentivized to keep all voices on the platform."
My friend Rodney is a police officer. I do not think he will help me.
Of course, embedded within Dorsey's statement is a certain ideological position. It's a naive, vulgar form of liberalism, the likes of which allowed fascism to gain steam in Europe during the early 20th century. Either Dorsey is historically illiterate, or he is opportunistically avoiding the well-established facts of history in order to, shirk responsibility. Who knows, maybe it's both. In early September, the conspiracy-hawking charlatan extraordinaire Alex Jones was banned from the platform. The company said Jones violated its abusive behavior policies. Prior to this, Jones had been banned or suspended from other major platforms, including Facebook and YouTube. At the time, Dorsey announced that Jones would not be banned from Twitter. His rationale? Jones had simply not violated Twitter's terms of service. A number of people have pointed out the apparent hypocrisy of this decision, citing numerous instances of people getting banned for minor and trivial transgressions. Abuse is far less severe than the distinct and measurable harm Jones had caused. Later, Jones was, in fact, banned from Twitter after a direct altercation with a CNN reporter and Dorsey himself. Again, folks pointed out the hypocrisy of Twitter's leadership. It wasn't the fact that Jones had basically instigated the harassment of Sandy Hook victims' families. It wasn't the fact that he perpetrated a false narrative about the shooting being some kind of elaborate hoax carried out as an excuse for the government to disarm the American populace. And it certainly wasn't the fact that he continually perpetuates conspiracy narratives with anti-Semitic undertones. Remember, Twitter stays out of politics.
Twitter does not use political ideology to make any decisions.
Ultimately, it was simply a case of Jones getting on the wrong side of Jack Dorsey. That's what it took for him to get banned from the platform, a run-in with one of the higher-ups. Now, whether or not one individual or another deserves to be banned from the platform is a question that doesn't concern me. At least not for the purposes of this video. This is because, for starters, I would never expect a corporation to do the right thing for its own sake. That almost never happens, and really, they're incentivized not to do so. So, if they do happen to make a decision that outwardly appears to be the right thing, so to speak, it's usually an issue of maximizing profits or saving face, or both. What I'd like to do is shift the conversation to a broader question about who controls these platforms. I think the central question here is, why is one single company even in this position in the first place? Could it be that capitalism trends towards centralization and ultimately monopoly power? Why does a handful of seemingly clueless technocrats have the ability to make unilateral decisions that impact the everyday lives of so many people they don't even really know? It's clear to me that the consequences of such decisions extend far beyond their own realm of understanding. Why does this handful of technocrats have the authority to be the arbiters of such mind-bogglingly large platforms? We accept this as normal, but it's extremely weird when you stop to think about it. And wouldn't you know it, according to a report by the Wall Street Journal, Dorsey told a confidant that he overruled his own staff in order to have white nationalist Richard Spencer reinstated on the platform. Twitter's leadership has continually shown its ineptitude in the face of far-right extremism, yet somehow nothing ever really seems to change. It's maddening. With these questions in mind, we might view Twitter as a conduit through which all of the world's problems are exemplified in some form or another. It's something of a digital mirror through which various socioeconomic problems can be recognized and perhaps better understood. Harvey's continual state of fear is increasingly how I've come to feel about Twitter, the platform itself, and to a broader extent, the world. Prior to Jones getting banned from Twitter, in the days following his banning on Facebook and YouTube, I noticed something a little strange. A near perpetual meta-conversation about how horrible Twitter is on Twitter, the platform itself. In existential terms, this is an exemplification of screaming into the void. This has occurred in other instances as well. Some have even taken to calling Twitter the hell site. This is despite the fact that people who do this still go on Twitter for one reason or another. Increasingly, these complaints seem like the song of a bird that has grown to love its cage. I assure you I'm guilty of this myself, so don't think I'm passing judgment here. Of course, for writers, artists, and other creative types, the platform is invaluable in terms of self-promotion. We're all incentivized to go on here despite its flaws, precisely due to Twitter's ubiquity. It's a kind of self-reinforcing feedback loop of likes, retweets, ratios, moments, etc., etc. Meanwhile, the news cycles become increasingly absurd and, at times, horrific, and the sensation of time itself seems to have become condensed, if that makes sense. All things considered, screaming into the void is an understandable reaction to everything that's happened in the past year. Interestingly enough, Harvey has an old photo of what looks to be a public works project as his Twitter banner. Public works are infrastructure projects handled by the US government. Harvey is a public servant. He's a forest ranger, no less. But perhaps more importantly, he's a man with no wife and kids. Someone who is fundamentally alone, isolated. There's a strange sort of juxtaposition going on here. Harvey is on Twitter. He's living at a time when it's never been easier to connect with people using technology. But Harvey certainly doesn't really appear to interact with anyone, save for an occasional reply in which, surprise, surprise, he pleads to his followers for help. Instead of really connecting with others, Harvey expresses terror on a continual basis. And the reaction by his followers is itself part of the act, I think. Harvey is reaching out to the internet for help. The reaction by most is, well, a disinterested sort of amusement by his constant state of terror. This dynamic creates a sort of comical dissonance. But it is perhaps more aptly understood as an artistic expression of the kind of atomization that occurs between individuals under late capitalism. It's certainly true that connecting with people in 2018 is easier in a technical sense, but is it really the case that people are less alone than they were prior to the rise of social media? That wraps it up for this short installment of Nightmare Masterclass. If you enjoy my videos and have a few bucks to spare, please consider supporting me on Ko-fi.com/Nightmare Masterclass. Please know that any amount, large or small, is highly appreciated. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.